Which does not sound like much until you're on it, hauling ass over some rough ground and you're flying. I mean, it's amazing.
Hey folks, it's Nick with Bootstrap Farmer. I'm back with Bouldin Food Forest down near Austin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Great to be back, Nick.
Thank you. So I am 46. Vanessa just turned 50 in January. You're a tad over 50.
Barely.
By that much. What I want to cover today is farming after 50. Basically, two people out there. One, if you're already doing it, if you're over 50, you're not alone. We're all kind of out there sprouting about. And the next one is if you're a younger farmer, maybe thinking about starting to implement this before you get some of the mobility issues that we're going to talk about today. Vanessa, you two met, as we covered in the last podcast on the Market Gardener channel. Ben was already farming.
I was a professional chauffeur for 20 years. So my job was a lot more sedentary. It was a lot more stationary. I wasn't bending, stooping, kneeling, all that stuff. So when I met Ben and started farming, I was 44 and a lot more mobile than I am now. I was in a car accident and I have 2 compressed discs in my back. And I got COVID in 2021 and that left me with degenerative neuropathy in my hands and feet. To have something sort of strike you when you're in the middle of a very active and physical job was devastating for me to not be the person that I had been, and left me not really knowing what my place was on the farm. It was a big deal. And
I say this in all seriousness, like when we're there working with you, you can't tell. Like I'm afraid I'm not keeping up with you, kind of thing. So
I take a lot of drugs.
Yeah, well, there's that, and I know that you've built in some brakes, and as of recently, there's a couple of things that's on the farm that's helped quite a bit, and which I'm hoping to get to. Ben, your take on it? I mean, from the time you started, when did you actually start farming? What age?
Well, I started, it's 2024 now. I started in 2016. So been doing this 8 years. And the first 7 years, I was unstoppable. I was very active athletically prior to that. So I was always in pretty good shape, but farming has actually made me stronger and more overall healthy because it is so active and it's so physical.
Working out all day long.
Yeah, it is.
It's CrossFit.
Yeah, it's CrossFit on a farm.
8 hours a day.
But that it's wear and tear too on your body. And in the last year, I have begun to feel the effects in multiple ways in multiple joints on my body.
It's like, I know when you turn 30, it's like what's going on? What's going on with me? You know, kind of thing. Because you slow down just a tad, or recovery time takes a little bit longer. Yeah. You hit 40 and it like ratchets it up. It's weird how it goes in decade spurts. You don't feel shit for 30 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you feel it. And then at 40, you hit it again. And then
at 50, literally everything just falls off.
It seems like every year then you start noticing these different plateaus. And
yeah.
We all need to eat better. We all need to exercise more. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to, and we talked about this yesterday, there's never enough time on the farm. You're up from morning, noon, and night. I think the thing that affects me the most is the weather. The extremes of it. You're in the cold, you're in the hot, period. You don't remember the times that it's all great. That's kind of seems to be what drags me down the most.
Yeah, and there's definitely the new phenomenon now called wet bulb temperature, which is usually when it gets hotter, the humidity gets lower. And with climate change now, when it gets hotter and the humidity stays high, it's actually deadly. I mean, it's very dangerous. So that's a whole new thing we need to factor in because humidity just sucks the energy out of you. And then you add, 105 degrees on top of that, and it's dangerous.
A lot more frequent breaks during that time of the year. As much water as you can possibly drink, for sure. But that's one thing we've done in the last 2 years, certainly, is more frequent breaks, stopping by in the dead of summer, stopping by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or just working inside the packing shed for the rest of the day.
I know a lot of farmers that when it gets that extreme temperature, like they'll actually take 2, 3, 4, sometimes 6 weeks off in the dead of summer because the plants are suffering, the lettuce is cashed out, nobody's going to the market because it's hot anyway. I know a lot of people can't do that, but I do see that as a factor in the more and more farmers that we talk to.
Yeah, I've seen that too. And I think there was one farmer I know specifically in the Austin area who did that. And after they came back, they found themselves so far behind that it took a lot longer to try to catch up as opposed to just trying to push through every week.
Yeah, I like that capping off at about 1 o'clock or so. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we do kind of a siesta and then go back out in the evening.
Right. So. Is there any self-care stuff you guys are doing off farm or like to aid in recovery or any programs that you guys kind of implement?
We do stretching. We personally, in the evenings, we foam roll and stretch and things like that. And then we do like a farm stretch in the packing shed where I just say, okay, everybody stop. And we'll just do, a couple minutes of farm stretching.
Do you find with the younger employees, it's like, make sure you drink your water and like you're having to Mother Goose everybody to make sure that they're staying up doing everything they have to?
I do that.
Yeah.
I do that with Ben. I'm the water police at the farm.
As far as self-care, that's a really good point. I think it's something we don't do enough and we probably need to do more of and have a specific program around it because it's cumulative. The wear and tear on your body, the wear and tear on your psyche over the course of weeks and months through the grind of heavy production from spring through fall. And if you don't purposely take that time to care for yourself, care for your body, a snowfall effect that will just continue to get worse and suffer burnout at some point too, which is what you absolutely don't want. That's when it's all going to come crashing down.
Yeah. I'm big on preventive maintenance. Like I have forever gone, and now it's even more frequent and longer sessions for massage therapy, which basically keeps me upright these days. My job has changed, right? Because it used to be the farming, and it used to be going out and taking care of the lawns and everything we're doing for landscaping. And now we can do everything from drive for 14, 15 hours if I need to go to Atlanta, to schlepping luggage all over an airport, to having to climb up, put wiggle wire up. I mean, we're still building hoop houses. I'm about done building. I'm about done.
You do a great job with it, though.
I appreciate it.
You do, yeah.
I think that's a skill I'm trying to pass on. So, and then we're just sitting for hours on end, editing or doing everything we have to do for that. So I do like that we don't do the same thing every day. We're always constantly going out and everything, but I never want to get to the point where I come visit you guys or any other farm and I'm like winded. You know what I mean? I'd never want to get to that point.
Yeah, Farm Strong and Gym Strong are two very, very different things.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no mud in a gym to contend with. And that's the thing. It's the aging, it's the making sure that we're exercising, it's the weather, but then it's all the extra stuff. The bugs come out and they're all over the place. The mud, it wears on you. The wind, where you guys are at especially. You mentioned Amarillo yesterday. Did you live there for a minute?
No, I've been through there a couple of times though, and I can't imagine trying to farm there. That has to be rough for them.
So I lived Panhandle adjacent for most of my life, and just that nonstop wind, I know a lot of farmers have to deal with. It's just you're getting pushed all day long, and it's crazy how much that wears you out.
It makes you crabby really quickly. Yeah. I mean, you start the day and you're already mad. I'm
crabby anyway,
right?
I don't need any wind blowing around. What are some adaptations you guys have feel like you're doing now that you weren't doing before?
Knee pads. I think everybody needs to use knee pads. The difference is startling. A lot of our people weren't using knee pads. And I said, do you want to try knee pads? No, we're fine. And then they tried them and they're like, wow, that's a big difference.
The trade-off of the slight discomfort that you have. And for me, it's about keeping my knees out of the wet and the cold, like on the dirt. That's what saves it for me. And I've had knee surgery before, so like I'm super sensitive to it.
Yeah.
I think the game changer, though, has been the electric scooter.
Oh, yes.
That Vanessa did a ton of research on different types, wheelbases, configurations. I was a little bit skeptical at first.
He was very skeptical.
Regardless, there was some skepticism, but after seeing how well it has helped Vanessa get around the farm, and when I've used it, just the the speed of which I can move around the farm is remarkable.
Yeah, it's been a complete game changer for me. Typically, and when you've seen me at the farm, you see the good side, and then usually around noon is when Ben has to help me into the house, and I have to go take some, tramadol, and that's it for the rest of the day. But with the scooter now, I have more time because I'm not spending as many steps,
Well, and you guys have done so much step reduction, as
Yeah.
we talked about in the previous episode, about making sure that you don't have to take those steps. So to reduce it even further, I want to back up a half a step and have you fully explain what it's not like you would see at the grocery store. This is a very purpose-built scooter. And I would also like for you to compare and contrast that, because you're using like a side-by-side still and before. And for people that, well, I'll just get a side-by-side, I found the other day that this thing is much more maneuverable for that type of application. So explain what it is, and then why you would need both or one over the other for the side-by-side.
So the one I have, can I say the name of the product?
Sure.
Okay, it's a Cheetah Ninja. Is what it's called.
What was that again?
A Cheetah Ninja.
Cheetah Ninja.
And it's cheetah because you can go up to 15 miles an hour on it. It's pretty fast.
Which does not sound like much until you're on it, hauling ass over some rough ground, and you're flying. I mean, it's amazing. What it is basically is it's all-terrain mobility scooter. It's on the base of a golf cart, essentially. It's like a one-person golf cart.
But compressed down, it's not as wide.
Right. Yeah. It's just enough for one person. It has all-terrain tires. It has a rear wheel drive, which is actually really important. That was one thing. I did a ton of research, and rear wheel drive is essential on a farm, because if you have front wheel drive and you're in dirt or mud, you're just spinning.
Right.
But with rear wheel drive, you have that kind of push from behind. So that was essential. All-terrain tires were essential, and battery power, which is the big deal for me, because we do have an ATV, and that's great, but it's a diesel, and it's bigger, and you kind of have to clunk around in it a little bit. With this thing, I'm zipping up, down, and sideways, and it's amazing.
Well, I felt that when I was on it, that the turning radius was much narrower.
Yeah.
So instead of having to possibly drive around the hoop house, you can zip around like a postal truck.
Yeah, you can go in between the cat tunnels. You can go down alleyways, practically all sorts of places you can't go with the ATV.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember. Did it have a place for like a small trailer hitch or something like that?
It does. It has a 1-inch trailer hitch, which is different than a standard, so you have to have an adapter if you want something bigger, but it can haul, I think, up to 600 pounds, like with a person and cargo.
Right.
Yeah, so you can haul cargo in it. You can, I carry all kinds of stuff in there. It comes with baskets, but
Phone holder.
It does. Yeah, it has a phone holder. It has a cup holder. I put a tool bag in my front basket, so I have tools in there, and it's great. I mean, I did a lot of research there were trikes, and there were different configurations, seats and everything. This one swivels. The seat actually swivels to the side. So you could potentially use it for pruning, for harvesting. So that was an important factor for me too, for doing flower harvesting.
And I know some farms have golf carts, electric golf carts on their farms. This, which is probably great and fantastic, but this has a smaller footprint. So I think the accessibility portions of it for this particular one that we have and it's less expensive than a golf cart as well. So it's a great solution. I can't wait to get one myself.
Yeah, and after you showed us that program for grants for this kind of thing, maybe we need to get one for you too.
You're just shy on the research there to get it paid for.
Yes.
And I'm excited for you to get one too, because I would like to see you two race. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
So in preparing for this talk, I was Googling about the universe, and I found basically it was Aggregability, and it was a national aggregate for most of the states. And I was surprised, like most of the outlying areas like Guam and Puerto Rico and all that's it seems like all of our territories even had a program for the Aggregability. I looked at Texas specifically. It looked like Texas A&M was kind of spearheading that and churning it. And that's about as far as I got. But the important thing is there are programs out there I got the impression like they're going to come out and like evaluate your farm and see how they could make suggestions to streamline things. They had stuff like grants for carts and anything to help assist. I think that would be great. And it goes to now, I feel like some people are going to hear that and it's going to be the same thing we hear about NRCS. Well, I don't want the government on my land or something like this. Like they're not coming out to see, something crazy. They're actually here to help. And given the fact that it's through university, I like that even better.
Yeah.
If this is an issue that if it's going to help you farm a couple extra hours a day, which means 10 hours extra a week, aggregate that out. It's a lot of extra hours. Plus you feel better.
Yeah. And I think that's been the big difference for me is I'm able to actually work a full day. When I was only able to work until noon, while it was, 5-hour, 6-hour day, I felt useless. I felt like I didn't have a place. I felt like I was a burden. I felt it really affected the dynamic for me being on a farm and not being able to be physically active. To have any aid or anything that can help me to feel more in my place, that's the most important thing to me.
Well, that talks about just aging in general. We're all just on the other side of midlife here, and you start thinking crazy shit all the time. And I'm shrinking.
Talk about getting old.
That's what happens when you get old.
I got to get rid of that bar. There's this mental wearing of aging anyway. And if this cart even helps prevent a rolled ankle that you would have had had you been having to walk about the fields all the time, because look where we're at. There's always a new hole. There's always a new puddle.
Yep.
Something's always slippy, and if that allows you to take that many less steps and you're not making yourself, hell, I told Joel the other day, I don't want to get on a ladder anymore.
Right.
Just that's where I see a lot of injuries. And what am I going to do on a ladder these days? You know what I mean? And that's a rule I've made for myself, and that I'm just not going to, it's not worth me being down to go change a light bulb.
Well, let's look at the average age of the American farmer. It's 58 years old. There's all sorts of hand-wringing about what is America going to do to make the American farmer age younger. That's going to take a long time to bring that average age down. In the meantime, people are still farming, and there are people still in their 40s and 50s who are considering farming as a second or third career. Why not provide the tools and the means for them to engage into that career and keep producing food for Americans? And an agri-mobility grant system or program is a great solution, it seems like.
Well, the thing about it is, if we're coming into this from a second career, what are they likely to come from? Some type of desk job where their body isn't used to this, and it's been pre-programmed for 20 years to be sedentary, and now all of a sudden you're on those ladders and you are walking and you're all. My biggest thing, because I keep saying the weather, but it's because that I got a little bit of arthritis in my fingers, and the colder it gets, I don't know what's going on with Bootstrap Farmer, but we only build hoop houses in the dead of winter or the high heat of the summer. We never do it when it's nice, right?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So because that's when there's time to do it,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that the farmers that we help build these things, we don't hire that out. We're not for hire to build your hoop house, but occasionally I get to come build one. Yeah, man, my hands at the end of the day just sucks. I had an eye injury a couple of years ago on a farm in Pennsylvania, and I had to get surgery on my eye. That put me out for a few days, and those few days add up over time. And then it's always where you need it the most, right? Like you're going to get hurt the day you're harvesting for the market.
Right.
I mean, it always works out that
Or
way.
on Sunday when Ben's not at the farm.
Right.
But I think that a big factor is if Ben were to be injured, we're screwed. I mean, we have a great crew, but he is the heart of the farm aspect. And, if he had to have surgery, if he, were out for 6 weeks, it would be very, very difficult.
Well, it's not like farmers have great insurance either. You know, there's that factor preventing it. But what if we do have to have care? What does that look like? And then we talked a lot yesterday about how far out we are. A very dear farmer friend of ours, she stepped in a hole in a couple of years, and I mean, gashed her leg. And it took almost an hour or more to get to the hospital. And it was a pretty severe cut, but it could have been worse. You know what I mean? And now all these things factor into, you know, what are we doing here? And that's why I want to have this, is just, I don't think I'm coming with any solutions here, but it's worth a talk and worth a consideration of, is it really worth, everything needs to be fixed on the farm, but is it really worth stretching out over and being dangerous? There's always time to hire somebody with a little specialty. Maybe renting a lift for a high tunnel is a little bit expensive up front, but what's it going to cost if you tumble out of a ladder in the back of a truck on some jacks? You know, we've seen crazy stuff out there as we're working, and it's not smart.
Yeah, I think the other issue that we have on our farm is that our farm is designed to capture water in certain ways, and we have berms and we have, you know, swales, panels that we dig at the end of our tunnels so that the water will drain away into our pond. And that's great for the water and for the farm.
But it's not great for little step stools when we're
it's
trying
not,
to put log channel.
It's not great
or
for
just walking if the grass gets a little bit tall over the course of the summer.
Or even, I mean, even getting a cart or scooter or, you know, anything, that's an added barrier to our mobility and also to people being able to visit the farm, which I think is another aspect of farming being accessible. My aunt is in a wheelchair and she would love to come visit, but she can't. You know, it's not reasonable to expect her to be able to get around.
Right.
So I don't know what that means for farming in the future, but I think that as the population ages, it's something that we really need to think about.
It's a big deal for me, and I was really, we have a new product coming out. It's a raised bed kit, deep water kit kind of combo that brings the beds up 16 inches. And it doesn't sound like much, but saving 16 inches on your back is a big deal. If we have mobility issues, and this thing, a lot of it's designed for an urban landscape where the soil is horrible. If we're on concrete or asphalt and a wheelchair can get around all four sides of this and harvest and participate, that was a big driving force for me to make sure that how can we make things more accessible? And sure, raising it up off the ground, for me, it was the first step.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. And we have to do a better job on our farm of making pathways, walkways level with plenty of good gravel or walking surfaces, well trimmed, both for ourselves primarily and then for any guests. And I think for any farm out there, urban or rural, that's a big part of your responsibility to yourself and your health and your safety, as it is for any guests or workers who might be on your farm as well.
Do you foresee any changes of like bed width over the course? Like 30-inch bed, it's great because you can straddle it and pick and do all the things, but then is that too wide at some point? I mean, do you foresee having to change maybe the way things are laid out? Maybe not for you, but it could be a consideration for somebody else.
Well, we soon are going to a little bit wider beds for our new fields, where they'll be 36-inch beds, because we'll start moving into more mechanical cultivation, which to this discussion is a good point, because the more mechanical cultivation we can do, even some mechanical harvesting, the more that we'll be able to produce and save on wear and tear on our body as well. It's a big investment, both money and time, but it is a strategy for us to be able to continue to do this for the next 10 years.
Yeah, the tractor has been huge saver on your body, not having to use a BCS, walk behind. Because we do everything by hand. And so that was a big deal to have a mechanical way to get some new fields going.
And when it comes to tractor talk, I'm always surprised at how little people I don't want to farm with a tractor. Okay, but you're going to have gravel to push around on your roads. You're going to have to move a lot of compost around, and to be able to have just a small tractor with a small front bucket. I mean, even if it takes a hair longer, you can get off and still work a full day while moving a couple of tons worth of gravel or sand or whatever the case may be, pushing things out of the way, deliveries coming in, and being able to scoot a pallet along the ground. All that, and it has nothing to do with farming, but that piece of equipment is going to pay for itself and
I've been that
not
person.
blowing your back.
I've been that person you described. I was like that for the first 7 years of this. Like, I can shovel a yard or two of compost out of the truck onto the beds. Yeah, I'm strong. I'm capable. Try doing that with several hundred yards of material over the course of 7 years, and your back will have a discussion with you.
And dude, that's where all my snarkiness comes from. It's like, I did that for 20 years. We put in rock lawns. We did a ton of mulch. We were always turning over beds and moving fertilizer around for the landscaping side. And when we changed to farming, having indoor hydro and having like Dutch buckets and stuff, it reduced all of that. So I wasn't having to do that on the farming. But what do you have? You're moving NFT channels and you're cleaning stuff and you're still constantly wet. And then you're trellising vines that never end, and you're still putting yourself stretched out over something you can fall down. I mean, and we do, and I did, thankfully it's nothing devastating, but I'm saying this because I don't want that for anybody else. Like, right. I want people to slow down so they don't trip and fall and hurt themselves, hurt a crop, hurt infrastructure. I mean, it all happens.
Yeah, for outdoor farming, very few regrets in my life, but one regret of mine is not having gotten a 4-wheel tractor much sooner than I have, just because of the ability to move stuff that's heavy quickly and efficiently, whether it's compost or gravel or anything else, or being able to start a new field and not have to rely on renting something. I'd done all the work into looking into the cost benefit ratios and thought for sure borrowing or renting equipment was less expensive, and it was at some point. The switch flipped in terms of the impact on my body and my well-being. And so if farming is going to be your life end game as a second career, get a tractor. If it's going to be your first career, get a tractor.
Our rule of thumb when we were working is if we had to rent something twice in 1 year, we then bought one. Once a year, you can expense that out, it's fine. But yeah, that tractor, that was a quick buy for us.
And I think something else that really didn't even cross my mind as far as the tractor goes is, we put a ground post in the ground for a tunnel, and then we decide we want to move the tunnel over. Those ground posts just were in the ground and a trip hazard and very dangerous because we couldn't move them. We couldn't pull them out. And we got the tractor, and Ben wrapped a chain around it and popped it right out. And I'm like, wow, this thing's amazing.
And my back's hurting just even thinking about getting low, pulling that. It's all lower back, and you're going to blow something for what,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or get a hernia or tear some stomach muscles.
Yeah. So, and also we've been able to, move fences because we can pull posts out, and our tunnel, we're able to move that. So it's not just about.
You guys moved all those hoops
at
one
all the
time.
hoops.
We got footage of that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Joel loaded up on the tractor.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it's much more than I thought, because I had the same thought, like, well, how often are we going to use it? And it's every day.
I can't imagine you guys living anywhere else. We kind of talked about that yesterday. But if you were looking at it going into farming at this age, is there any physical attributes to a land that you would avoid or be attracted to?
Not necessarily, because I think, as you know from landscaping can be adapted and changed. I think it depends on, what you want to accomplish with your farm, whether it's proteins or whether it's vegetables. Those are your primary concerns, it seems like. And then the land itself is, how close are you to a market center that's willing to buy what you produce?
Carrie just walked in, folks, so we're going to pick up with her. Radiohead once said, gravity always wins. We're all going to slow down. We're all going to age. It's going to take longer to recover. There's some self-care stuff we talked about. There's just a little bit of planning and slowing down and maybe hiring some younger folks from time to time.
And I think that it's something you need to incorporate into your life is yoga or stretching at a young age so that you remain limber and you're able to recover faster from, especially the stuff that we do, a lot of hip tightness, legs, back. That's perfect. Yoga's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak on behalf of all yogis for a minute about that?
Yeah, like starting at the younger age that you can start yoga. I started when I was in my 20s and just turned 40 now. I'm falling apart a little bit, but some of my friends are falling apart more than me. So, and I think farmers, it's a perfect opportunity because you're outside. I mean, you're going to be bending over a lot and that's going to take a toll on your body. So it's also never too late. Even if you've never done yoga before, it's never too late to start yoga.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I know.
Starting today, Nick?
Yeah. We're as soon as we get done, we're gonna
do a yoga
get some
session
mats
right
out.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just finished teaching one class. I can teach another one.
Well, I was a little busy, this morning. Excuse me.
Okay, sure.
All right. I do hope this helps. I mean, it is a serious topic. It's not just, as we talk, a physical thing, but it weighs on you mentally, either worrying about it or shit, I'm hurt and now we have to, be laid up for a couple of days, and you don't want to do that, and it slows everybody down.
And it could severely impact, if not wreck your business in some form or fashion.
For sure.
If you're not prepared.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having that talk. I know it's not fun talking about aging and all that stuff, so we'll quit beating the dead horse. On the next episode, we're going to talk about a major wind event that you had and damn near a complete rebuild of the farm over the last few months. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.